So this is my first YouTube video. Um, I really don't know where to begin. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I want to help. I've been through the ringer and back, seen what hell looks like, and got out of it. And I feel like I have valuable information that I can offer people, that I can help people that have gone through something similar. Um, so I guess I'll just start with my story. Um, I had a rough childhood. Um, I always felt different, like nobody really understood me. Um, but let's fast forward a little bit and explore my personal hardship, and that was dealing with homelessness. Um, around the spring of 2014, I had ended up breaking up with a long-term girlfriend at the time. Um, and I was living with her, and so naturally, she kicked me out. It'd be kind of awkward to live with your girlfriend after you broke up with them. I ended up going and living with a friend uh, that took me in, but he was on the verge of getting married. We thought it was going to be a couple of months, and I this is going to be hard for me. Okay. Um, well, while I was living with this person, um, my doctor stopped prescribing me my medication. I have some mental health issues. I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, ADHD, dysgraphia, dyslexia, and my whole life, I'm pretty sure I struggle with Asperger's syndrome. That one hasn't been diagnosed, but my mom is a teacher and she's been to um, seminars talking about autism and Asperger's, and I've done my own research about what are the symptoms, what is the lifestyle like, and my mom's got her master's degree in teaching and working with kids with autism and Asperger's, and she's like, when she goes to those seminars, when she sees these kids, she's like, oh my God, this is Justin, this is Justin. Um, and, reading some of the things I've read, I was like, oh my God, that explains so much. And things like click in my head. It's like, whoa, but I've had a lifetime to cope and learn just, strategies on how to socialize with people and how to take care of myself. Um, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in the fifth grade, ADHD in like the third grade. Dyslexia and dysgraphia, I think, was around the fifth grade as well. Maybe high school. I don't know. I can't remember, but that's what I struggle with. Um, so my doctor, going back to these friends that I was living with, my doctor stopped prescribing me medication for my mental issues that I was taking my whole life, by the way. From 3 to 23, I was on medication for this stuff. And I didn't know who I was without it. And she stopped prescribing me this stuff because I hadn't seen her in 2 months. And the reason I hadn't seen her in 2 months is because my car got repoed. So I couldn't see her. So she stopped prescribing me medication. She's like, you're no longer my patient. I'm not going to give you medication. This is the same doctor, mind you, that I walked into her office And I was like, uh, she's like, I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder by 3 different doctors at various stages of my life. And I walked into her office because my primary, the one that had been like, that I've been with, Dr. Fox, from like 16 to I think like 23, had closed her practice. She was a great doctor, wonderful doctor. She was based out of Rossford, Ohio. So if anybody knows Dr. Jill Fox, loved her, loved her. She was amazing. Um, she closed her practice for her own reasons, and so she referred me to another doctor. I can't remember if she referred me or my mom found her. I think my mom found this other doctor, but this doctor seemed like she had a personal chip on her shoulder about Dr. Fox because they knew each other. And this doctor, I forget this doctor's name. I don't want to bring anybody under the bus, but this doctor didn't seem to like Dr. Fox. And I walked in there and I said I have bipolar disorder, and she's like, "Have you ever been institutionalized?" No. "Have you ever been in jail?" No. "Have you ever gotten a girl pregnant?" No. "Have you ever experimented with drugs?" No. "Well, you're not bipolar." What? 3 different doctors say I am, and you ask me 3 questions, and you say I'm not? Come on. Anyway, so I'm dealing with this quack, right? So, um, going back to the friend's house, I know I'm skipping around, but there's a lot of information to dive in here. Going back to the friend's house, broke up with my girlfriend, moved into my friend's house, car gets repoed. I can't see this doctor for 2 months. She stops prescribing me medicine because I'm not her patient anymore, because so much time has gone by. I freak out. I've lived my entire life without these with these medications. I don't know who I am without them, and when I have missed them, bad things have happened. I'm terrified, panicked. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So I I freak out. Um, anyway, a couple days later, I get into it with the guy I'm staying with. There was yelling, there was a fight. He had said that all you have to do is apologize and you could come back, but like a day before that fight happened, there was no hitting, it was just yelling. Um, he had mentioned that he wanted me to kind of find another place to stay for a week because he was getting married to his girlfriend. They were engaged, and the honeymoon, because they both worked at Meijer, which is a grocery store in the Midwest, and because they didn't have much money, they were like, well, why don't we both take a week off of work and we'll just have our honeymoon here at the house? So, of course, they didn't want me around. Like, I understood that. But, like, I think a couple of days before they were supposed to start their honeymoon, we'd gotten into this fight, which is a few days after I'd stopped, I ran out of medication, and, which, hindsight. Um, so I'm like, you know what? I mean, I am sorry. I do apologize, but I think I'm just gonna find another place to stay, and I didn't have any options. Well, I decided to go to. I was in Clio, Michigan at the time, and I decided to walk to Flint, Michigan, which is 12 miles. It took me 4 hours. Yeah, 12 miles, 4 hours. Um, Anyway, and the reason I did this is because I had a friend there that I thought could help me. But before I get into that, I've always wanted to move to New York City, like ever since I was in middle school. And I was like, I Google mapped it. I was like, how long would it take me to walk to New York? And if you walk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you could get there in 10 days. So I guess, walking nonstop. So probably, I don't know, maybe like a few weeks if I did like 8 hours a day. But I had like money in my pocket. I I don't know why I wouldn't have just taken a train. I remember thinking I could just walk. I don't know. I was in a weird state of mind back then. Anyway, but I didn't go to New York City because I didn't like. I knew if I went to New York City, I was gonna be homeless. Um, so I went to downtown Flint because I had a friend that lived there, but he wanted to help, but he couldn't because he was living in a university dorming, and you can only have a guest for 3 days before that guest has to leave. So it's not like it was a viable option. So I kind of just, I stayed there with him for 3 days. I stayed with another friend for a couple of days. And then when I ran out of essentially friends to stay with, I had more than two friends. It's just these are the two I was closest with, and these are the two, like, the type of friends you could reach out for help. Um, the, the second friend had dropped me off, and I kind of looked around. I was like, what do I do now? So I was in downtown Flint, Michigan, right by. If anybody's in Flint, they know what Riverfront is. The dorming for Mott, Kettering, U of M, and Baker. Um, I was pretty much standing in Riverfront's parking area, that little circle thing, just looking at U of M. Like, okay, well, I guess and anybody at that time, I don't know if they've changed it, but at that time, you could walk in, anybody could just walk into U of M. So I just walked into the food court and just kind of sat there for a little bit, and then everything closed. I was just sitting there all day. Everything closed, so I'm outside now. It's September, like the middle of September of 2014, and, in Michigan, it gets cold around that time of year. So they got little benches. They've since removed these little tables. It used to be like these little tables with umbrellas. I think they took those out right outside of U of M, right outside the pavilion. Um, but I sat down at one of those benches, and it was right across the street from Churchill's, which is like a bar by day, club by night. And it was getting to the point, like, I think it was like 8 o'clock, and I started seeing people like rolling in. 11 o'clock eventually came around, 12 o'clock eventually came around. Um, and it's like 30 degrees out by this point, middle of September in Michigan, 30 degrees outside. I was like, I gotta get some sleep. So I fell asleep. But obviously the noise kept waking me up, so I woke up. And little side note, I looked up, and there was this dude and this chick making out, leaning on this van. I'm like, I mean, all right, just watching these people make out, have a good time. Kind of jealous, wishing I could be the dude. She was like hot, and so they get in the van. I'm like, all right, dude's gonna score. They're gonna go back to his place. Nope. I literally, there was shadows. Like I couldn't see any details, but she started giving him a blowjob. I'm like, okay. And it wasn't like turning me on. It was more like funny that I'm just sitting there watching these people just drunken fun, having a good old time themselves. Like, this is bullshit, Like, I'm sitting here having a life crisis, and I'm just watching these two, like, having the time of their life. Anyway, about 20 minutes later, they both get out of the car. I'm like, all right, well, all know what happened there. And they go back in the club. And a couple hours go by, and I see him leave with a different girl. I'm like, well, shit, bro. Teach me your ways. And then I didn't see her. I must have missed her leave or whatever. But because I was in and out, like I kept falling asleep, and then I'd wake up, and then I'd watch the people coming and going. But that was just, I thought it was kind of comical that it's just, oh, okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'd fallen asleep. I think like 3 in the morning comes along, and I'm just in this deep sleep, and it's 26 degrees at this point. Um, and I'll tell you how I knew that in a second. But I was having this dream because I'm in downtown Flint, 3 in the morning. the constant, like, and I had a bag of, like, pretty much I left my house with clothes on my back, and I had a bag of just random things, just like random possessions, like my phone, wallet. Um, there was like I think like a couple of clothes in there. I went out and I think I bought some food, like so that was in there. So there's like things that were important to me in there, and um, the thing on my mind was somebody's gonna take this while I'm stealing. So I put, or while I'm stealing, while I'm sleeping, somebody's gonna take this while I'm sleeping. So I put it around my ankle. So if anybody was ruffling through it, like there was like a handle, like it was a little bag, and there was like a handle. So I put the handle around my ankle. So if anybody's rifling through it, I would have felt it, and if somebody tried to take it, they'd pull my leg, which would obviously wake me up. But like I was having this dream that somebody was going through my shit. And I was like getting like all worried and like I was like, I had a dream that somebody had woke me up because they were trying to take my shit. And then like they were like trying to yank it from my ankle and I'm like, dude, stop, like blah blah. And as I'm dreaming this, somebody goes, "Can I help you out, buddy?" And I woke up and I swear to God, like I could feel the fear just washed through my body. And I did one of those, when people get scared, they like show that face of fear. Like I was terrified. And right in front of me is a police officer. And once it registers that it's a police officer, I was like, oh, thank God. Like all he sees all of my emotions just wash past my face. I know it too. I can feel my face just moving with my emotions. He's like, you can't sleep here. I'm like, I have nowhere to go. Where should I sleep? He's like, there's a homeless shelter right down the street. They'll take anybody that needs a bed. I'm like, I'm not homeless. He's like, then go home. I'm like, I can't. He's like, why? I was like, I have no place to go. He's like, then you're homeless. And like for the first month of homelessness, I was in complete denial that I was homeless. I kept telling people I'm not homeless, but I was. I was. Okay, so um, I'm in this daze, so I start copping an attitude with the cop, and he's like, "You want to like, you better calm down. I'm gonna put you in county lockup." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I calm down. I apologize, and it's like I start to feel the cold set in, like how cold it was. Your body's really resilient when you're sleeping, because I didn't feel how cold it was until I woke up. Um, and so I checked the temperature on my phone. It's 26 degrees outside. I was like, holy shit. Um, anyway, so I'm in a t-shirt, by the way, a t-shirt and jeans, just asleep on this bench. Anyway, so I get to, um, it's gonna be a long ass video. I get to the homeless shelter, so it's like literally right down the street. You could, from where I was, it was My Brother's Keeper. So anybody that knows Flint, Michigan, I went from U of M to My Brother's Keeper, which was like it was on. Fuck, I forget the street it was on. Shit. Anyway, so it's like maybe a couple like, not. It was just like you could walk there. It wasn't that far of a walk. So I'm walking, and the police officer's like following me in his car, making sure I actually check into the shelter. So I ring the doorbell, and this is the state of, like, how naive, how in denial, like, state of mind I was in. I ring the doorbell, and the shelter advisor goes, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, is it true you guys have beds?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I have one?" He's like, "Check-in is at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. Come back." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And tomorrow, like, it was a Friday, so tomorrow was a Saturday. And I'm like, "Wait, are you guys open on weekends?" And he's like, yeah. Asking a homeless shelter if they're open on weekends. Anyway, so I walk back and the cop rolls up. He's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "They told me I can't check in. I have to come back." So the cop goes up there, rings the doorbell. Mind you, the cops like cleared down the street, so I had to walk halfway back to the college to tell the cop what was going on. Cop drives to the shelter, so I have to now walk back. This cop's like not cutting me any slack, man. Um, I have to walk back. So eventually, I see the shelter advisor come out, start talking to the cop, and so I roll up, and the shelter advisor is being super nice to me. He's like, usually, like there is a, a check-in time, but we always want to work with the police officers and stuff like that. So go ahead, come in. And I apologize to the cop for being a little dick earlier. He's like, it's late for both of us, and I was like, okay. So the shelter advisor, gives me some spaghetti, which I thought was cool. I was like, wow, he's feeding me? Like, fuck yeah, I'll take some spaghetti. Um, and then, so he's like, all right, I'm going to give you bed number 5. Um, yeah, I'm going to give you bed number 5. Uh, so pretty much, like, he offered if, like, I needed a shower or anything. I said no because I'd showered earlier that day. He asked me if I wanted to watch TV or anything. I was like, no, I just want to go to bed. So pretty much, it's in a room with like 30 guys, and you can hear them all snoring and sleeping. And, like, I'm a kid from a upper middle class, like in the Midwest. My parents made over $100,000 a year. I was used to a certain lifestyle. I was used to a certain way, well educated, very well spoken. My grandma was like the CFO of the Toledo Art Museum. So it's like, I'm used to a certain class and used to a certain way of life. And now I'm in this homeless shelter with a bunch of homeless guys all snoring and shit. I thought I was in prison. That's the mentality. I was like, dude, I'm gonna wake up and these dudes are gonna just start hazing the shit out of me. Or like they're gonna mess with the new guy like while I'm sleeping. Like I was just scared out of my mind. And so I curled up in the fetal position and tried my best to go to sleep, but I didn't get any sleep. So this video is like 22 minutes long, and that is how I became homeless and my first night of homelessness. I have an entire like year and a half to go through. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break up these stories, and I'm going to have a whole video series on my journey to homelessness.